Ladies, did you know that your ability to live and feel authentically feminine is connected to your sexual power? Gentlemen, have you ever wondered what's behind those days when she seems to shine from within? If you answered yes to either of those questions, stay tuned for the O Spot with best-selling romance author Rachel Kenley, and get to the source of your power so you are living a life of greater connection and joy.
Well, hello and welcome to the O Spot. I'm your host, Rachel Kenley, and I am just as surprised as you that we're starting this like 5 minutes late. Isn't that bizarre? All of a sudden there was music instead of my intro. I was like, where's that nice man who introduces my show for me? But apparently there's been some technical glitches on their end, and so hopefully that's all cleared up now. And now I'm here, and it is freezing here in Massachusetts, and I can't get the balance right between hot and comfortable and freezing here in my home office. I have my heater on, and I have a little cozy cape on, and I can't get quite, I'm warm, but I'm too warm. So for those of you in warmer climates, lucky you. For those of you here in the Northeast or the Mid-Atlantic, bundle up. So I hope you all enjoyed hearing Wendy Darling last week. She was terrific. And I did, as promised, as you heard, send her the list of books, recommended romances, for her attendees at her awesome weekend that is coming up this weekend. And yes, I included a few of my own. Why shouldn't I? And so I hope that her guests, and if you're one of them, I hope you enjoy that list because it comes from the heart. The vast majority of those I've read personally. Others are sitting on my to-be-read list. And one or two were recommended to me, but I haven't gotten around to yet. But for the most part, they are books I've read and loved, and they're all authors that I know and have read books by, even if it wasn't the one I particularly recommended for whatever reason. So next week, I hope we don't start late again because I have a guest, the incredible, talented Karen Jones is going to be with us. And her strength is scrumptious relationships. And seriously, you'll hear her talk. She's going to use that word and juicy. I guarantee it sometime next week. So if you go to her website, which is theheartmatters.com, you can see Karen. You can get to know her a little bit more. Also, if you check her out there, you can see her also on YouTube. She has an awesome book out called Men Are Great, which I had the privilege of helping her edit. And it is something she deeply, deeply believes. Wendy and I spoke a little bit about that the more a woman's power she is, the more she can honor the men in her life. And as we do that, men suddenly, although of course it's not suddenly, seem to blossom into these incredible heroes. And her website is very much her energy, and she says, thank you for stopping by. Now that you're here, let me guess why. Oh, there's a line in between there. It doesn't really rhyme. She says, you're a wonderful, smart, successful woman, and you've made a lot of amazing things happen in your life, except for in that one area you've tried so hard to figure out: love. So you're here feeling confused or frustrated or angry or sad, or worse, maybe even ready to quit. I know that place. I was there for years. So she... once she learned how to improve her relationships and her relationships with men, she wanted to give that gift to other people as well. As she writes, it's my life's purpose to help women like you to have that relationship that feels like home, the safest, yummiest place on earth for both you and your sweetheart. I'm so grateful that I get to help women have scrumptious relationships with men. There's a proven path to the relationship you want, and if you follow it, you'll be able to experience more love, more satisfaction, and more joy in your life. I'd love to provide you with the shortcuts and help you need so you can get there sooner with less pain and more fun. I want you to be able to take advantage of my long, painful learning curve so yours is easier. So you guys are going to adore having her here next week. In the meantime, if you do go to theheartmatters.com, and don't forget the, because otherwise you end up on something completely different. You can sign up for her weekly Ask the Coach newsletter. It's terrific. She will make a distinction between if you're in a long-term relationship and married or if you are single. And sign up for what you want. She has a recommended reading list. She has websites to awesome stuff. She has lists about her coaching and her programs. So check it out. And Karen will be with us next week. So, all right. That being said, close that window down. Excellent, excellent, excellent. I'm getting there. I'm having one of those nights where I have 1,000 tabs open on my computer, and if I'm not careful, it's going to blow up on me. Okay, it won't blow up, but I'm afraid it will suddenly shut down and freeze up and not let me get to the articles that I want to talk with you, because today, for Oh No and Oh Yes, we're talking about no and yes. This came up twice this week. I always think, I'll plan, well in advance for my radio show. And you guys have heard me say this before. And then, nothing feels quite right until somewhere in that 24 to 48 hour period before the show. And that's usually the 24 hours, which freaks me out sometimes. But I had two instances where people spoke about the challenge and the power of saying no clearly. And I also thought, there's a way to say no clearly, and there's a way to say yes powerfully. They are perfectly reasonable answers to a question. They don't require explanation. They don't require further explanation. They don't, and they will get some judgment, but that's not on you. It's not about you. So after the break, the oh no and the oh yes are going to be about the ways we don't use them powerfully. And yes, this definitely plays into living authentically, because how many times have we said yes to something that we didn't want to say yes to, or no to something because we were afraid? And those aren't the reasons that you want to be saying yes or saying no. Coming from a powerful place, coming from a clear place, coming from your priorities will make a huge difference. So, okay, good. My breaks are going to be at the same time as usual. So here we are at the first break. Come back for our Oh No section, where we're going to talk about why saying these without clarity can be so diminishing. Here on the O Spot on Om Times Radio.
Conscious media for conscious minds. Om Times. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Om Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Om Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Hi, this is Julie Geigel.
I'm Maggie Chula.
And I'm Catherine Glass.
And we're the Psychic Angel Channelers. Join us every week here on Om Times Radio for Angel Talk Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time.
The angels have heard your call and are here to help.
Are you ready to receive?
Remember your magnificence with Angel Talk Tuesday.
What if business could be fun? What if business is the adventure of living? What are you choosing? Where do you do business that makes it easier, more fun, or more joyful for you? We'd love to see where you do business. Connect with us on Instagram at Joy of Business or Twitter at Joy of Business. And share your pictures with hashtags BusinessDoneWhere and Joy of Business. Let's change the world with business.
Live with medium Lisa Phoenix, Mediumship Messages and Musings, explores mediumship and all things metaphysical. Lisa Phoenix invites you to reach above and beyond your everyday experiences, to explore new dimensions in the spirit world. She will do live readings to connect callers to their loved ones in spirit, shares engaging stories and teachings from her own personal experience, and will have intriguing conversations with other mediums, spiritual teachers, and healers to help you understand the metaphysical world so you can connect to these forces in your day-to-day life. Join your host on this magical and metaphysical journey into the world of spirit every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time.
Bringing a more conscious lifestyle to your world. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back to the O Spot. I'm your host, Rachel Kenley, and I just wanted to let you know that today I'm doing something different, and it's for the first time. But I expect to be doing it regularly as we go forward. I found an online speech-to-text website. Many people use Dragon Speak, and I have it, but it takes a while for it to recognize your voice and to get things down and to get used to the technicalities of the process. So I decided that I would try to find one online, and I did. So I'm recording this, I'm texting to speech this, so that when I talk about some of these topics, which I've started making outlines for various books that I really want to create, one of them being on the power of desire. And this topic tonight is also one that I didn't find as much information as I thought, so I thought we could probably all use maybe a book on it. So I decided that if I do this speech to text, I'll have an immediate transcription of the show. And it's not quite accurate. I can look at it and I can tell you I am seeing some very odd words, and I'm hoping that when I go back and look at it, I'll know what I said, or at least what I meant. I'm hoping. We'll see what happens. So, back to tonight's topic. We have all said yes to things we didn't want to, and we've all said no to things because we're scared. Somebody once told me, or I read it somewhere, that the definition of stress is when your brain and your gut say, no, 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 and your mouth says, sure, no problem. We've all taken on too many volunteer roles or taken on an additional project, made assumptions about our own availability or ability. And frequently, because when I Googled things about saying yes or saying no, I got several articles about the challenges of being a people pleaser. So people pleasers do have a tendency to say yes to too much, and unfortunately also to the wrong people, but don't know how to say no, and when they do, they're very, very uncomfortable with it. And it's not just people pleasers as a general group. I mean, I know people who refer to themselves that way, that they were raised in a way that they were taught not to say no and to always be respectful. And, no was just a very, very negative thing, as opposed to just turning down something in the moment. And you become disempowered. Your yes almost doesn't mean anything, and you don't even have a no. That'll get you into trouble in your relationships, both personal and professional. It'll have you stressed out and wondering how you got into something and how on earth are you going to get out of it. And then there are some situations where you'll meet someone, and with them in particular, it's hard to say no. People who are narcissists, or even, for those of us who've run across the occasional sociopath, and I'm not talking about the murderers on Criminal Minds, there are people who this is just part of their psychopathy. Ooh, I wonder how the text-to-speech thought that word sounded like. I had someone in my life, I thought I had gotten rid of, let me back up. I thought I had really gotten rid of all of those harmful, this doesn't work relationships in my life. And as it turns out, one sneaked in. And it sneaked in under my personal radar because he was the popular guy in our writers group. Everybody loved him, and he was the one you wanted to gain the attention of and the fondness of. And in the process of wanting to be in with the popular kids, which is an old weakness of mine based on childhood, what I think of as playground injuries, the psychological playground injuries that many of us carry, I didn't notice the danger signs. I didn't notice the way he talked about people when they weren't there. I didn't notice how he clammed up or changed the subject when somebody else was talking about or went on about their success, or when the focus was off of him for too long. So when things came crashing down in our writers group because of a new member or a new person who wanted to be a member, and sides were drawn, I was a target for him because I had gotten more successful, or as successful as he was. I wasn't kowtowing as much as everybody else, and I was giving strength to the other people who to not bow down to what he wanted. And he left the group, and he stopped speaking to me, and boy, did that open some old scars. And he was somebody who I said yes to over and over again when he needed help, when he needed a ride, when he needed, oh my gosh, all sorts of things. But in the end, when I couldn't give him what he wanted anymore, I was out on the pavement. And it opened up a huge number of old wounds and old pains. And I've been much more careful since then. And by careful, I don't mean frightened. I've just allowed myself to be aware, because that's when you can say yes and no well. And I know I'm kind of moving into our OES now, but you need to know, we need to know ourselves. You want to know your priorities. We want to know our purpose. My priorities are the things in my life that fill me up. So I don't usually think of myself as a priority. Like I don't say, okay, number one is me, and then because the priorities themselves fill me up. So my first priority is my marriage, and my second is my children. And my third is around my friends and family. And my fourth is around going for and doing whatever is necessary to have my dreams and the dreams of my family come true. And I think I had a fifth once. But those are the basic ones. And so when I'm offered something, I can look at those priorities. Will it affect my marriage? Will it affect my children? Will it affect my ability to go for my dreams? And if it's going to go, help me with my dreams, but harm my marriage, well, then it's a no. If it's okay for my marriage, but, because my marriage at nearly 20 years doesn't take hours and hours and hours of work. It's consistent, but short spans of time. But if it looks like it's going to be harmful to my children and my time with them and the way I need to support them, then the answer is a no. So, and then when it comes to the dreams, because I know my purpose, which I get to live every week with you here, which really is around helping women connect with desire in their lives, and most especially their sexual power, then I get to say yes. And I say yes very, very quickly these days because I know my priorities and I know my purpose. It's very internalized at this point. It's so much a part of who I am and so much a part of my life. And I've gotten to live that way and be so clear for so long that there's not a lot of hesitation. The only time I hesitate would be sometimes, like, for example, now I have 4 different projects that have different deadlines that I'm working toward. And if something came up now that was definitely in line with some of my dreams, I would still have to either postpone it or say no, because I am only one person. So you can't say yes to everything. But I can say no in that case with clarity. I can say no and know why. How many of you, raise your hands, even though I can't see them, how many of you have ever said, oh, I can't, I wish I could, or I'm so sorry, I would if I could. We don't need to qualify our no's or our yeses. And I was part of this volunteer organization for a while where I learned very quickly how important it was to say no clearly, because if I said, oh, I wish I could, they would do everything they could to make my wish come true. Well, what's in your way? I'd say, well, maybe this and maybe that. And then all of a sudden they'd have solutions, and there I am saying yes. So, now don't get me wrong. Occasionally that was actually a very good thing, because my no was coming more from fear and not wanting to take a risk. But that being said, it's very easy to just qualify your no because you don't want to hurt the other person's feelings with it. And the truth is, your response is your response to this situation and this request. Unless somebody is asking you to marry them, it's not about, you know what, even if someone's asking you to marry them, your response is about what is true for you. Most of us are never going to respond in a way so as to intentionally hurt the asker. But what we have to make sure we do is that we answer in a way that doesn't intentionally hurt us. We deserve the honesty first. We deserve to say our truth, our yes or our no. There are frequently consequences, like I said, if someone's asking you to marry them. But that's more about the other person. Once you come from your strength, it's a different process. All right, our second break. Come back afterwards. We're going to switch this difficult challenge into how to say yes and no powerfully.
The cutting edge of conscious radio, Om Times Radio, IOM FM. Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. Om Times Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single Om Times endeavor. Host your show with Om Times Radio Network.
Dr. Kevin here, and I want to invite you every Thursday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, to join me on the Dr. Kevin Show, where we have a diversity of guests who help you step outside the box, behind the curtain, and see what a load of crap is going on in the world today, so you have more information with which to make better decisions. We'll see you there. Namaste.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at Om Times Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. Om Times Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Eros Evolution is where sexuality and spirituality meets. Join me, clinical sexologist Martha Tara Lee, on Eros Evolution on Thursdays, 4 p.m. Eastern on Om Times Radio.
Free your mind. Expand your soul. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Hello and welcome back to the O Spot. I'm your host, Rachel Kenley, and I have to tell you, I checked in with my SpeechPad website, and it got the word psychopathy right, but instead of writing saying no, it wrote piano. I have no idea why. Anyway, that being said, I think I better do the transcription or the review of this transcription sooner rather than later, or I'm not going to know what the heck I said. And I think next week I'll try a new one until I find one I really like. So, saying yes and saying no. I looked up first, saying no powerfully, and I got business websites. I got like Forbes and other things like that, which were telling me how to say no in business and how to agree to something or whatever. And I was like, oh, that's not right. So I got rid of the word powerfully, which was sad. And then I got answers that served me and that were on the topic for us. One came from a blog post from 2012 on a website called The Glass Hammer. And this is cool. This is one that's never come up for me before as a website. And it says, theglasshammer.com is a career resource for professional women. We provide advice, coaching, and networking opportunities to empower you as you navigate your path at work. So, I pulled up something on work. But it talks about saying no with power and grace. And the assumptions are, and this is true for a lot of us, if I say no, the other person will think I'm lazy or that I can't do it. If I say no, I'll hurt the other people's feelings and that will change our relationship. Saying, if I say no, I feel incompetent. I feel, there's a part of me that thinks, see, you couldn't do this. So this talks about, being clear that you can give reasons, but that that the clarity, that setting the expectations about our priorities and why. You can give an explanation, don't give an apology. I think that's the way to think of it. Another site, Encompass Coaching, has a blog post from, this is more recent, July 2015. And the quote at the top of the blog is Paul Coelho. And it says, when you say yes to others, make sure you are not saying no to yourself. That is so important. That's how you say things powerfully. If you say no, but it's the right decision for you, the no is powerful. And we've talked about consent here. It does go back to that as well, ladies. Never, ever consent to something you are not comfortable with. It's very important. And it's important that we teach other women and show other women this and model this, not just in the workplace, especially not just in the workplace, in our relationships with other women. I've told women, you can say no to me. I will not take it personally. And I've had a couple of them actually surprised. They're like, really? I'm like, yeah, really. It's one of the gifts of getting older. Ask any woman in her 40s, and I'm rapidly closing in on 50. It is a great gift of getting older that you can say no powerfully, you can say yes powerfully, and you don't take it personally when somebody else says one or the other. I don't even take it personally when my kids say it. Although you must admit, the reason kids say no so much, especially at that terrible 2s and 3s, is because what have you been telling them up till that point? Careful, don't, no. What we're really saying is, I'm worried about you and I couldn't handle it if you got hurt. What comes out is no. What they hear is no. And so fear and emotion get tied up with that. And you're not being clear. Don't jump on the bed is one thing. Please stop jumping on the bed. I don't want you to get hurt or break the furniture is something else. Powerful versus fear. And we've talked about fear lots here. So one of the things the author of this blog says, and it's on encompasscoaching.com, talks about how the fact that she has teenagers now, and when she was, from the time she had toddlers to the time now that she has teenagers, she hears the word no on a daily and sometimes hourly basis. And she says, I cringe and am proud at the same time. When did we lose our ability to say no? When did other people's needs and wants become more important than our own? Saying no is such a powerful practice, yet one most of us have chosen to neglect. A client once told me she would rather have a root canal without anesthesia than say no and disappoint somebody. Oh my gosh! No wonder her life was spinning out of control. That was a powerful message she was sending to herself and those around her. The message she was telling herself was saying no is way too painful, so avoid it at all costs. The message she was sending to those around her was she never says no, so keep on asking. I think the other message she was telling herself is, you're not worth setting your own boundaries for. Your boundaries are very valuable to you, to who you are, to how you are, to how you treat yourself and how you show others how to treat you. She recommends an exercise. If I say yes to this, am I saying no to something else that's important? And then you turn it around. So again, she goes on with, unfortunately, she goes on with more business decisions, which I think is weird, which is why I'm transcribing this. I think the personal relationship no is very important. On themuse.com, the blog post I found there is called How to Say No to Anyone, Even a Good Friend. And it was about somebody she needed her help, and she just had a huge deadline of her own, and she had to say no. And she has this, what she thinks of as a universal script. Hey, so-and-so, she was asked in an email, thanks for your note. I'm so proud of you for your accomplishment, and I'm flattered that you'd like my assistance, but I need to say no because. And if you have something, I can support you in a different way. Bye. I can even do that with my kids. Mom, can we go to the mall? No, not today. But if you give me to the end of the week, or if I can get enough work done this week, we can go on Friday. Mom, can we have breakfast for dinner? Yeah, that one I'll say yes to no matter what. Don't avoid the yeses and nos too. Don't do the, well, I could possibly, That's not really helping you or them. On realsimple.com, this is also work life, 10 guilt-free strategies for saying no. I really thought I had found more that were relationship or sort of life-wise, but apparently no is much more important in business. A coworker wants you to chip in money. You have a financial one. Oh my God, it has a whole bunch of them. Never mind. I don't like this one. Your third cousin asks to bring her boyfriend of the month to your $150 plate wedding reception. What you should say: we've already had to make so many tough decisions to get the guest list down to size. We really can't squeeze in and afford another guest, but I would love to have you two over for drinks sometime so I can meet him. Why you shouldn't feel guilty: it's your party and your pocketbook. How to avoid the situation in the future: make a few calls before you put together the guest list to see if there's new additions you should consider. Kind of go back and forth on that one. I mean, if your third cousin asks you, I don't care if your first cousin asks you to bring her boyfriend of the month, you can simply say, no, I'm sorry, that doesn't work in with our wedding count. We're on a strict guest number. And I do like but after we come back, let's find a time to get together. You shouldn't feel guilty for saying no when you say it from your truth, any more than you should feel lousy when you say yes. If you say no and you feel terrible about it, you haven't said the right thing for whatever reason. You probably should have said yes. You may have said no because you're afraid of something, afraid of a risk, afraid to open up. You know, I have this terrific friend. I'd love you to meet him. Let's go out on a double date next Friday night. Well, if this is a friend you trust, one night couldn't hurt, right? Don't say no if it means you're closing yourself off. There is an article on lifehack.org on the gentle art of saying no. This definitely comes up with what we were talking about. Value your time. Know your priorities. Practice saying no. I used to do this when I was in direct sales. I used to say, nobody is required to book a show, but I would love to help you get free product. However, just so you know that it doesn't hurt my feelings, everybody say together, no thank you. Ready? And they would all do it. I was like, great. Got that out of the way. No's don't hurt my feelings. Yeses don't hurt my feelings. You lying to yourself in order to please me, it doesn't hurt my feelings, but it makes me feel bad for you. It should make you feel bad for you. Practice saying no. Don't apologize. Stop being nice. Yeah, it's not a problem of mine. I definitely have a nice, strong, bitchy side. Let's ask if you can get back to them. Now, that's an important one. If you really don't know what your answer is, do not feel pressured into saying yes or no. Not an easy thing to do, but if you ask for some time, you'll be able to get your clarity back. I've got my break back. It's my final break. Oh my gosh, we're about to do our last section. Come back for our oh wow. How are we going to take powerful yeses and nos into the world? Here on the O Spot on Om Times Radio.
Bringing you the best of the conscious minds in the world. Om Times Radio, your conscious lifestyle on steroids. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Om Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Om Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Looking for inspiration?
Want to be inspired?
Not sure where to go?
Find Mark and Kim every Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on Inspired Living.
Topics will elevate consciousness and range from metaphysics to the human and social experience and all things spiritual.
Welcome to an inspired community that offers support, encouragement, and new ways of thinking. You are the inspired and the inspiration.
As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Are you ready to shift your energy, consciousness, and limiting beliefs? Join me, Shefali Burns, every Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern on Shifting with Shefali here on Om Times Radio. Shift the blocks, limitations, and negative energies that have kept you from experiencing a life filled with joy, peace, love, abundance, and happiness. Are you ready to shift with Shefali? Are you ready to shine your brilliance?
The future of Internet radio is here. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back to our final section on the O-Spot. I'm your host, Rachel Kenley, and thank you for being with me tonight. One of the things I want to remind you is how to get in touch with me. I tend to rush that at the very end. So I want to tell you now that you can reach me at email with rachelkenley@gmail.com or on Facebook at facebook.com/author Rachel Kenley, or the O-Spot's Facebook page, which is facebook.com/the O-Spot with Rachel. So, that being said, saying yes and saying no with great power and clarity. I have to say I wasn't surprised to discover that there were more articles on saying yes. And the articles on saying yes tended to be more personal. Although there was the ones, boost your potential by saying yes more often, 10 things to start saying yes to this year for a happy life. Hint, none of the things you're supposed to say yes to had chocolate in them, so I closed that one. One of the most well-known ones that's going on right now, and there was a movie with Jim Carrey, The Yes Man, where he's challenged to say yes to everything for, I don't know how long it is. But Shonda Rhimes has a book out called The Year of Yes, kind of an Oprah-esque experiment. And the subtitle is How to Dance It Out, Stand in the Sun, and Be Your Own Person. Now, Shonda Rhimes is famous for her role as the creator, head writer, executive producer, and showrunner for, you ready for this, Grey's Anatomy, Private Practice, Scandal, and now she's executive producer of How to Get Away with Murder. She also was the screenwriter on The Princess Diaries. She's done a lot that most people don't realize. And so check out her IMDb profile if you want to know more. But she describes herself as an introvert. And as her fame grew, so did her aversion to anything that put her anywhere near the spotlight, the smallest stage, she ran from it. Red carpets, all of those things, the parties, the conferences. She didn't want it. And then her little sister, I think it's a little younger sister, called her out on it and said, you never say yes to anything. And what she realized was she was saying no to things that would make her happy. And that is the important distinction. It's not that she said yes to everything, let's go out and get drunk. Yes, it wasn't arbitrary. She said yes to the things that could make her happy. She took a chance and a risk at more happiness. So one of the things it says here in the article is she turned her story of saying yes to everything that scared her for a year and beyond into a book that is fun, dishy, and inspirational all at the same time. But the best part of the book, the part that stayed with me, this person who wrote the blog, wasn't that any of the things she said yes to or the demons she conquered. It was the chapter on saying no. Yes to no, she calls the chapter. Yes to difficult conversations. In it, she described saying no to the wrong cast member for the pilot of Grey's Anatomy back when she was, as she said, so darn happy to be in TV that while no was hard, every no that came after was easier. And so she learned then to say no for her shows, but not for herself. And so over the course of that chapter, The Year of Yes, she sets out to say yes and no, and manages to say no to people she thought loved her, who turned out in some cases not to love a version of her that says no. She learned to say that doesn't work for me, and I'm done, and not fret about the outcome. That's our oh wow. That doesn't work for me. I'm done. That sounds wonderful. I would love to join you. And don't fret the outcome. Or, I'm adding this now, the emotional response of the other person. I am not and never will advocate not caring about what other people are feeling. How someone is feeling, how someone is doing, what they need is very important and a very special part of any of our relationships, all of our relationships, really. But your relationship with you is equally, if not in some ways, more important. So if a friend is having an awful night, but your child is sick, you make a choice. And you cannot worry about their emotional response to that if your choice was honest. You probably will worry to some extent about their emotional response. And you can say, and many of us do, I'm sorry that I couldn't come over yesterday, but Johnny was sick and I had to take care of him. You can explain. You can offer clarity, but that doesn't negate you being truthful with who you are and what you need. And I'm sorry if this is getting confusing sounding. I'm even wondering myself if I'm getting this clear enough. But it's an important thing to start, and it's not going to be easy. One of the things Shonda says is that she says she loves yes to no. I want a t-shirt that says say yes to no. I want it stuck on my mirror and at my desktop. That little phrase takes a seemingly negative little syllable and reminds us that every no is also a yes, and that when we think carefully about both, we create the lives we want to create. That's what I'm saying to you. That's what I'm really offering. When we say no to somebody else, we're saying yes to ourselves, to our truth, to our situation. When we say yes to them, hopefully we're also saying yes to ourselves. It doesn't mean we're saying no to ourselves. If you say, yes, I can come over and help you, if what you're saying no to is reruns of Grey's Anatomy, not such a big deal. So the no you're saying to yourself is really minor. But if you say yes to somebody, yes, I'll watch your dog for a month. The no you're saying to yourself is no to traveling that month and doing other things and maybe having your house torn apart. And the list can go on and on and on. So in her year of yes, she learned to say yes to no. I'm so tempted to pick this book up, but I have so many other fiction and nonfiction books to read, not to mention the ones that, I want to write for you all. So, clarity, it's a great thing. It's not an easy thing for a lot of us. We're sent so many mixed messages. I grew up with you're so pretty, why don't you smile more? You're so smart, why don't you try harder? Which mixed messages and lack of clarity have you received? You're so this, why don't you that? You're so good at math, why don't you study economics? Yeah, that was one of mine, by the way. You're so good at arguing and studying and reading, you should be a lawyer. No wonder our personal clarity gets muddled. No wonder our ability to say yes with clarity and a no with clarity gets totally tossed around. And then, add in the myriad. Wonder what my speech to text is going to say about that word. The myriad of mixed messages from external sources as close to us as our parents and immediate family, and as external to us as the Kardashians. It's hard to remain clear. It's hard to remain in your truth, in your power, in your authenticity. See? All comes back to that. Because when you say yes to things that you should be saying no to, and when you say no to the things that can open up your life, you are diminishing yourself. You are accepting that confinement. And no one deserves that. Especially not my lovely listeners. Saying yes and saying no with clarity and power expands us. It makes us bigger. It makes our lives bigger. No can make your life bigger because you then have the time, the honesty, the authenticity, the joy of saying yes to the things that are right for you. Joy to the things, you ready for it? Joy to the things that yes to the things rather, that you desire. And a clarity around that desire that I want for you to be unshakable. That's the last of our show for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Please join me next week when Karen Jones is my special guest, and we'll talk about scrumptious relationships and the awesomeness that is the men in our lives. Thank you for being with me. Have a great week. I'm Rachel Kenley from the O Spot. Good night.